Hi, everyone. I'm Dave.
And I'm Robert.
Welcome to our Chipola fifth quarter podcast. We're so excited to share this podcast with you, and we're really thankful to Chipola College for sponsoring this podcast. One thing is we get a film from this beautiful studio here in Marianna, Florida, from the main campus at Chipola College. One exciting thing about our programs, we kind of in this podcast bring in some leadership, some business principles, and talk about the field of the game of football. This great sport that we love. It's interesting about those who want to coach. We've had students that have gone and played pro sports and then come back and finish their degree with us. What's great about Chipola is we have a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration with a focus on management. We've had students who want to coach who come here with that focus on coaching, or who leave and go do great things and say, hey, I want to continue being involved in the athletic environment and choose to coach. They finish their Bachelor's in Science and Business Administration with a focus on management and applying that sports management concept, and they can do that online, so wherever they're at in the world, they can finish that degree. So something exciting. We talk about coaching a lot, Rob, so thought we'd bring in that connection for our audience today.
Yeah, absolutely. I have an early list of the top 25. These are subject to change the further that we go along. Spring football is not too far off. I want to say the Noles started practicing about 2 weeks ago. Saw a little bit of footage of what's going on there in Tallahassee, so I'm kind of excited. Here's hoping that the 2021 season sees vast amounts of improvement compared to the last 3 or 4 years. We've kind of been through the ringer. Let's hop into this list real quick. No surprise at number 1, Alabama. I don't think anybody is surprised by this.
Talk about coaching. I mean, they have some established coaching, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely. Nick Saban is a proven winner, proven leader, and as I said in one of our previous episodes, he doesn't go and sit in a recruit's living room or talk to mom and daddy and say, hey, I'm gonna promise playing time, but you have an opportunity to come to Alabama and compete to be the best, and that's where people want to go 9 times out of 10, because not only does he teach them how to be winners on the field, but Nick Saban, I saw some footage where he takes these guys out and hangs out with them and pours into their life, and it's kind of like that father figure role to them. There's more to coaching than just X's and O's. Sometimes it's about the kids themselves.
That's right, and I think that was something that we had a challenge with one of the previous FSU coaches, is they had that connection but didn't really bring in that leadership aspect. Saban has that connection, maybe as a father figure, but also as a leader on the field. So you need both to be an effective coach, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it shows, numbers don't lie. That's why they're sitting at number 1. Let's move quickly through this list, shall we? Alabama at number 1, Clemson at number 2.
Ooh, is that a stretch, you think?
Well, I would say so. Like I said, that's subject to change. I've got, as we get deeper into this episode, we'll kind of break some of this stuff down. We got Oklahoma sitting at number 3, Georgia at number 4. Iowa State at number 5. That was
Shout
interesting.
out, right? Big 10,
yeah,
Big 12?
Yeah,
What's that called?
Big
12?
10. Big 10, I want to
Okay.
say. Yeah, definitely interesting. Ohio State at number 6. I don't think that one was a surprise. Texas A&M sitting at number 7, so top 10. Jimbo Fisher's kind of getting them up over there at A&M. No hard feelings, I'm going to let that go. Cincinnati at number 8. Indiana, the Hoosiers, big basketball school. Their football program making a splash at number
Top
9.
10.
Yeah, top 10. Iowa sitting at number 10. North Carolina at number 11. Washington at number 12. Notre Dame at 13. Wisconsin at 14. Florida at 15.
Wow, that's surprising. We got to pause, though. Looking at Pac-12, so there are no Pac-12 teams listed until Washington at 12.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting how things are breaking out these days for college football.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think back to that early 2000s. Do you remember when USC, I want to say it was kind of 2002, 2004.
Reggie Bush and everybody.
Oh, Carson Palmer.
Yeah, they tore it up.
Guys
Heisman
like this.
after Heisman.
Oh, it was just, you got tired of seeing USC number 1 in the rankings, man. The Pac-12's making a splash. The ACC's starting to make a comeback. I noticed as I looked over this list, which we haven't finished yet, but we will, 4 ACC teams are in the top 25 this coming season. That's interesting.
It is, and there's some ones that I'm not going to put us on the spot, but Cincinnati, what league are they in?
I want to say they're Big Ten.
I don't
something
know.
like that.
Maybe
maybe CUSA. I don't know.
Yes,
The
I think that's what it is.
The Goodwill Conference.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know, man. There's a lot of no-name teams in here, and I hate to say it like that, but the truth is there is a lot of teams in here that have actually surprised me. You got Florida at number 14, like I said, Oregon at number 16. There's
Pac-12,
a Pac-12. Washington was at number 12. LSU at number 17. No
Ouch.
surprise there. That's kind of an ouch compared to their last couple of seasons. You got Texas at number 18. Coastal Carolina at number 19.
Wow.
Let's talk about Coastal Carolina for a minute. I want to say they're a Division II, Division III.
No, they're Division One.
Are they Division I?
Oh yeah,
I?
they're Division One.
But they're definitely not Power 5.
And we don't think Cincinnati is either, right? So I don't even know what Coastal Carolina is. Maybe a CUSA again, or something like that.
Possibly, maybe a knockoff conference.
Big East, they play football anymore?
I don't know.
So
I mean,
there's
maybe,
some other
maybe they've all retired, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Ole Miss at number 20, Penn State at 21, Miami at 22, Arizona State at 23, USC, and Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, will wrap up the top 25 list. Very interesting.
It is. It's good to see some new teams under that top 25.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely refreshing, and it kind of puts pressure though on some of these new guys that's in the top 25 because you think, okay, we got to hold this ranking because what people in this day and time, that the game can get very flashy. So you look at those rankings, and a lot of teams will let that go to their head and get out there on game day, and you get it handed to you. Those rankings will disappear faster than they came in.
Yeah. So FSU did it. They're not even in a honorable mention.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
And to be fair, as an FSU fan,
It's not time yet.
It's definitely not time. You know, the new coach there in Tallahassee, you know, he's got his work cut out for him. And the truth is, we're going to have to build. I would dare say, I'm going to make a bold prediction. I give us 4 years before we're ever in the ACC Conference Championship game,
Okay.
let alone a playoff spot.
How long do you think the boosters will give the new coach?
Well, to be honest with you, Norvell's, he's going to have his hands full, but the boosters cannot afford to just
That's right. The buyouts are quite expensive.
Right. Well, we're still paying on Willie Taggart. To be fair, you know, he's over at FAU now, South Florida, so he's back closer to home.
I wonder if the payout for Jimbo, I wonder if that has been finished. That must have been.
That may factor a little bit into it. But like I said, Norvell is not going to be able to just, you know, have subpar seasons and expect the boosters to be okay with it. We're going to see how it works out. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I give us 4 years before we're ever back in the conference championship game. If you can get a team of freshmen to come in, really stick together, you know, stay humble, stay hungry, and build over the next 4 years, I don't see any reason why we're not back in North Carolina for a championship game.
Awesome. So we'll call it today. So March 2025, you'll be an alumni of this great college, Chipola College. We'll be sitting here talking, and we'll remember this day. That's
Yeah,
good.
Absolutely,
All right.
absolutely. So let's break this down. The number one ranking Alabama, they had a 13-0 record in 2020, finishing number one in the final AP poll with a national championship. Here's some pros and cons. Let's break this down. They're losing QB Mac Jones, running back Najee Harris, and the Heisman Trophy winner and wide receiver Devontae Smith to the NFL draft. My opinion, I look for them to make it back to the national championship. Don't really see any cons there other than the fact that the quarterback, the running back, and the wide receiver, they're going to have some big shoes to fill. But if I know Saban, you know, he's got some depth on the bench.
That receiver, though, I mean, the Heisman winner, one of the best receivers that people say they've seen in, I don't know, in a few years. I mean, the guy had the Gale Sayers type of build. If you've ever seen highlights of him back in the day, just the swivel hips, could maneuver around people, then when there was no room to maneuver, just built to run down the sideline and catch the football.
True, but he is below the average size of a wide receiver. Have you looked at him?
He is, but he performs, though.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, size isn't everything, but if you know, if I'm a scout and I'm looking at this guy, I'm thinking, man, that's going to be some big shoes to fill, and he's gonna be in a bad situation. You know, if one of those guys like Ray Lewis or Ed Reed types get a hold of him.
Most certainly, yeah. So we'll see if they actually do.
Yeah, absolutely. Clemson at the number 2 ranking, finishing 10-2 in 2020, with number 3 in the final AP poll as a playoff finalist. You know, that was a pretty good 2020 season for them. You know, they didn't make it all the way back to the national championship, but they still had a good season nonetheless. Finishing number 3. And, you know, like they did was pretty good. They're losing QB Trevor Lawrence, running back Travis Etienne to the draft. That's going to hurt them. You know, that was a dynamic duo the past 2 or 3 years. Travis Etienne, local boy in Louisiana, turned down offers from LSU, places like that, to go play football at Clemson.
And Lawrence could be the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, they're talking about the Jaguars is going to take him. And there's kind of a toss-up, you know, as the weeks go on. But I'm pretty sure Urban Meyer, the new head coach there at Jacksonville.
Yeah, interesting.
Jacksonville's never had a franchise QB that they could actually pour into, other than the likes of maybe Mark Brunell. You know, and I remember.
But they got him late, didn't they?
Right,
or did he go there first?
I don't know if he went there. I want to say he went there first. I could be totally wrong.
Okay.
When I started watching the Jaguars on TV, I remember the days of Jimmy Smith, Mark Brunell. You had Fred Taylor at running back. Tony Baselli was their right guard or right tackle. You know, they had some solid, notable
Wasn't
players.
Brunell kind of like a Steve Young type of guy where he could maneuver and could throw the ball?
I mean, he could get it out there. I want to say the bread and butter for Jacksonville in those days was Fred Taylor.
Okay.
I mean, whenever
Running back, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Big guy.
Florida guy.
Yeah.
Local. You know, anytime the Dolphins would come to town, Jacksonville would eat them up on the rushing yards, man. I do remember that. And just to kind of delve into it, the offensive line is what's going to be a problem for Clemson going into the new season. Their defense will be more experienced than ever, but the offensive line is going to be the cause for concern. Even though they have a QB to replace, Lawrence, they're also going to have Justin Ross. He was out for most of 2020 with an injury, but he's supposed to be back healthy, ready to go in 2021. My opinion, I don't look for them to make the playoffs in the 2021 season. I feel like their peak was probably last season, and I think you're going to start to see the decline of the Clemson Tigers.
So maybe like the Trojans a bit, USC, where they'll still make bowl games periodically, but they've had such a great run.
Right. Unless you're Alabama, nobody's going to stay on top forever. I mean, let's just call it what it is. I mean, Alabama has the mojo.
But didn't USC used to have the mojo? I mean, what happened to them?
I don't know. I mean, every dog has his day.
But they've had coaching changes, so maybe that's a part of it, keeping Saban in place.
Absolutely. They used to have, you talking about USC, I remember the Pete Carroll days.
Right.
You remember
He's
them?
now went pro,
Yeah, Seahawks.
And winning, yeah.
So, I mean, every team's going to have that moment where they reach their peak, and then it's all downhill. You just got to learn to accept it. You build up, you tear down. You build up, you tear down. That's just the way it goes. Oklahoma at number 3, they finished 9-2 in 2020, number 6 in the final AP poll. They beat Florida in a bowl game 55-20. You remember that was last season. Florida had Kyle Trask, the Heisman finalist.
Yeah, you got to support the Florida teams and the SEC teams, the local teams, even the ACC teams, of course, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that game was not as close as that score.
No.
Yeah, that was a beatdown.
No, and I think, this is just my opinion, but I really think Florida kind of went downhill, after the SEC championship game.
It was in their hands for a moment.
The LSU, when LSU come to Gainesville last season, you remember the whole shoe incident?
Right.
Marco Wilson getting that personal foul. That really cost them, and I think that kind of sucked all the wind out of them going into the rest of the season. And
it's so competitive, so it's a great example for coaching, right? For leaders, is every action you take has a resulting, right?
Well, you got to be able to handle the pressure too.
That's right.
My take on Oklahoma QB Spencer Rattler. He was a Heisman finalist last year. He's going to return for another season with the help of a stout Oklahoma defense. He finished with over 3,000 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last season.
That's not too bad.
No, absolutely not. Oklahoma is favored to win the Big 12 Conference. I say, and this is bold, I say if Spencer Rattler can come back out this season, build off of last year's success, and improve from there, there's no question he doesn't win the Heisman Trophy this season.
That's exciting. You have some teams that kind of stick their heads up and kind of go back down. You have Baylor that makes a run every now and then in football.
Well, you got
Texas Tech.
Texas, the Longhorns, Texas Tech, all those guys. And that's almost going on a limb.
Texas, though, wow, I don't know. That's been a few years.
The Vince Young days, was it 2006 I'm thinking of?
A decade,
anybody
right?
watching, y'all can correct me on this in the comment section, but I want to say it was 2006. Vince Young was at the University of Texas at the time. That's when USC had Reggie Bush. Vince Young beat him.
That's right.
On a rollout to the end
zone. Was
that
Rose Bowl?
Yep, that was the Rose Bowl, man. And that was a bitter pill to swallow for USC because
USC was favored.
Yeah, but then Vince Young, he's got all that running room, and I remember I watch it every
big
time.
Man too.
Oh, absolutely. I want to say I was like 15 when that game happened. I remember him just rolling out, running down the sideline, just got it inside the pylon, and I just watched all those defensive players for USC. It was so bitter, man.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah. So Georgia moving in at number 4 spot, 8-2 in 2020. That's not good, but it's not necessarily bad.
Georgia seems to always be there. They never really go away.
Yeah,
never take that big ultimate step yet.
I think Georgia's problem is they have an issue trying to win the big one.
They got Alabama, right?
Yeah, well, all roads lead to Bama. They finished number 7 in the final AP poll. Georgia's offense is expected to be powerful as QB JT Daniels, running backs Zamir White and James Cook are going to return along with wide receiver George Pickens. I mean, they're set on offense. I'd say, offensively they got it going on. Here's the issue: their secondary on defense is going to be the biggest concern heading into the new season. The pressure is all on Georgia to beat Bama. Can they do it? That's going to be the question. I think back to when Richt was the head coach at the University of Georgia. 2011 and 2012, back-to-back, Georgia went to the SEC championship game, once against LSU, the other against Bama, and they just were not able to win the big one. And
but
then,
the coaching staff now has that Bama connection, right? So they understand how to
absolutely. But
perform.
then look at it like this: Kirby Smart comes to town, tries to rebuild that Georgia program, and then you got to figure
based on the Bama model,
right? Based on the Bama model, which Kirby Smart, phenomenal defensive mind. Matter of fact, word just got around that he hired Will Muschamp as one of his defensive analysts.
Okay.
So that could prove useful going into the 2021 season. All
Because
roads
they
lead.
can score if they can stop Bama
Absolutely,
from scoring.
but the problem is their secondary. If I know Nick Saban, they're going to have a solid receiver core. They're going to have solid QBs that know how to read a secondary. Most college defenses run a 3 or 4 man front, but most of it's like a 3-3-5. You've got your nose tackle, you've got your 2 defensive ends, then you got your linebackers, and then the rest are just athletes going anywhere on the field. You can stack the box if you need to. You can bring it back 2 safeties over the top. So that's going to be interesting to see how Georgia, can handle their secondary issues. And let's move right into Florida, ranked number 15 in the early top 25. 8-4.
Is that one of the lowest rankings?
For Florida?
I guess they had a couple of years that were really bad.
Yeah, they had a few years that were
So
really.
they're coming back, so that's positive.
Well,
It seems low.
They're starting to get back in the spotlight for sure. They finished number 13 though in last season's poll, so they got bumped back to going into this season, which fair enough.
Coastal Carolina's on their heels.
Hey man, we're gonna see how that works out. They're losing QB Kyle Trask, the Heisman finalist, tight end Kyle Pitts, Emory Jones. I'm told is going to step up at that QB position in Florida, so that's not going to be an issue as far as QB. Here's the issue: Florida's defense has got to improve. The last 3 games of the 2020 season, they allowed a combined total of 144 points.
Wow. And also about Trask. Do you think that the big game we were talking about with Oklahoma where they kind of got crushed a bit, the score was much.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it wasn't close at all. He's not in the top 5. They talk about the top 5 quarterbacks coming into the NFL draft, and he's not mentioned. Do you think he's going to be an undrafted free agent, or what do you see with Trask?
I don't know that he's going to be undrafted. I think he'll go somewhere. I just think he's going to be later rounds. When it comes to Florida, I watched some of the mock draft models that NFL was putting out the other day, and I want to say they're focusing more on the tight end Kyle Pitts from Florida, which here's the issue. The tight end, he was really good. I mean, he was.
Anything thrown to him he'd catch?
Oh, absolutely. And tight ends are known for, bailing you out on the short pass. If any of your receivers on the outside are not open, if you got a solid tight end that knows what he's doing, he'll almost always guarantee you 3 to 5 yards.
And Florida's known for some tight ends.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Hernandez,
most certainly.
Guys like that.
Yeah.
But you take him away, you're taking away the short pass. So now you got a new quarterback coming in. You're going to have to fill the tight end position. Florida's going to have to really start focusing on the run game a little bit. Just my take on it. Miami ranked number 22 in the early top 25, 8-3 record in 2020. They finished number 22 in the final AP poll. They haven't really moved. They're staying right where they're at, which is actually impressive because here is the kicker. They're depending on a healthy De'Aaron King to return at the QB position. Tore his ACL in a bowl game last season against Oklahoma State. So the Miami Hurricanes, this could be their year, and this is coming from an FSU fan.
It's tough though because last year people were saying this could be their year. They had some really high rankings at one time.
Yeah.
Then they got crushed in a couple of games. I don't know if it's their time or not yet. I mean, are they tested? I mean, it may not be their time quite.
Well,
22 could be a fair ranking.
But I feel like their time is on the horizon.
Yes,
Hear me
for
out.
sure.
They're number 2 in the ACC power rankings, right behind Clemson.
Wow.
And that's going to move me into my conference predictions as we get ready to wrap this up.
Yeah.
The Big 12 Conference, I see no reason why Oklahoma and Texas, the Longhorns, don't have another matchup this season. I got Oklahoma winning that. Texas, I don't think Texas can outlast the Sooners. Last season it was a back-and-forth match all the way to the end. I got Oklahoma winning that one. The SEC Conference, all roads lead to Bama. We just said that earlier.
Who are they going to play?
Bold prediction, but I'm saying Georgia, and I'll tell you why.
Okay,
I got them facing Georgia in the SEC. I've got Bama still winning it, but Florida's defense really fell off last season. Georgia could easily fix those secondary issues. If they got secondary issues, that tells me that their 3 or 4 man front can stop the run pretty good or contain. The ACC conference. Let's get into this one. This one's really bold, and I may have to eat crow on this. I got Clemson-Miami matchup. I have Miami winning it. Here's why. Clemson's going to have offensive line issues going into the 2021 season. Clemson's number 1 in the power rankings going into 2021. Miami's right behind them on number 2. Manny Diaz comes to town. His first year, they get 6 wins. His second and third year, they've kind of toppled out at like 7 or 8 wins, something like that. So they're, 2 wins shy maybe of getting into a bowl or a playoff berth.
So if Miami wins the ACC, do you think it's the U is back or not quite yet?
I don't know that I would say the U is back, man. I was thinking back to the days of Butch Jones.
I mean, everybody just say the U, and you know what they meant, right?
You know what they mean, but I was thinking back to the days of Butch Jones. You remember when Larry Coker first come to town for Miami? 2001 season, they beat Nebraska for the national championship, the Rose Bowl.
Jimmy Johnson coaching for a while?
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson was in the 80s. The 90s, they kind of toppled out with Butch Jones. He kind of got those boys in line down there in Miami. Miami. But then Larry Coker comes to town. They win a national championship his first year, beating Nebraska in the Rose Bowl. Go back the next year, lose in double overtime to the Ohio State University. I want to say that's when Jim Trussell was the head coach, and it was so heartbreaking, man, because I remember as a kid watching that game. Glenn Dorsey was the U's quarterback. You know, it was 4th and goal. All they had to do was tie it up, send it into a triple overtime. Glenn Dorsey drops back, and it's almost like I can see it fresh in my mind. Ohio State blitzes the outside linebacker, and the game's over. Ohio State clinches a
Kind of Romo-esque, huh?
almost, man. You could see the disappointment all on their faces. And I'm not even going to sit here and act like Miami's not a good football team or doesn't have a rich history. You know, let's not forget the Howard Schellenberger days when they were winning championships left and right. When
Michael Irvin back in the day.
Oh man, when Jimmy Johnson come to town, the U was putting their claim on almost
Right.
all titles. 6 national championships, 7 national championship finalists. You know, I mean, come on. That's really saying something. I want to say that 2001 team, they recorded 22 players sent to the draft that next
Whoa,
year.
that's huge.
Yeah, one of them was Willis McGahee, Clinton Portis. You had guys like Jeremy Shockey.
D-backs, right? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You had some powerful guys. And to wrap it up, man, the Pac-12, I got Oregon-USC rematch. I got USC winning it pending they can fix the run game.
Okay.
USC didn't really have an impressive run game last season.
That's like running back you, though, right?
Oh,
USC?
yeah, absolutely. Guys like Reggie Bush and a few other guys. If they can fix that run game, I don't see no reason why they don't beat Oregon. Oregon only played 7 games last season. Of course, the Pac-12 period, you know, with COVID and everything, they didn't have a chance to really play a lot of games. And that's all I got, man. In the pro news, Tampa signed all 22 of their starters coming back next season.
That was a great note. That's
Super
exciting.
Bowl run
Wow,
number
yeah.
2, man. I'm excited. I think
Repeat's the goal now, right?
Oh, absolutely. The last I heard, Antonio Brown was the only one they were having issues with.
Okay.
And I think the issue was negotiating a contract. I think he's wanting a little more money than they're willing to give.
Well, he'll play for Brady, though.
Possibly, but he's wanting more money. That seems to be the filler out there. Larry Fitzgerald's deciding on whether or not to retire or go to another team, and there's talk that Tampa Bay could pick up the Fitz.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Pittsburgh guy, and you know, dedicated his entire career to the Cardinals. I think he'd be a
Runs
good fit
his
in Tampa.
routes, tough guy,
Absolutely.
good off the field.
Best receiver never to win a ring, just my opinion.
Okay.
I'll go
Good
with
call.
that, man. Like I said, that's all I got, man. You know, spring football's a few weeks away, and I'll be doing even better when we get back here next week, talk some more football.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Rob. Great podcast.
Yep.